The format that we are using tonight has been agreed upon by all of the candidates who have agreed to abide by it, and they are aware of what we will be doing. First of all, they have each been given 2 questions to respond to ahead of time. Each of the candidates will have 3 minutes to respond to the first question, and they will have 4 minutes to respond to the second question.
Can you introduce our interpreter?
Absolutely. In the front row, we have Kuka Silva, who is our translator for tonight. Kuka, thank you so much for translating for tonight.
And if anybody needs interpretation, I have equipment ready, and I will be interpreting everything they say. Just come on over because of this equipment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuka. The minutes will be watched by not only Marga Cooley, but we also have Karen Mays working in tandem with her, so there's double backup. At the end of the response for those 2 questions, we will have about a 10-minute break, during which time we will ask you, the audience, to submit some written questions to be answered by the candidates after the break. And we only entertain written questions. Your question can be general in nature, or it can be addressed to a specific candidate. But in that situation, all of the candidates will be given the opportunity to respond to that specific question. Each candidate will have about 2 minutes to give a response. Then we will allow 2 minutes for each candidate to present a concluding statement, and we hope to conclude around 8:30, if not before. Before we get started, just one other thing. We would ask that you refrain from showing your approval and or disapproval of the candidates' responses during the forum. That way we will all be able to hear all of a candidate's response. Okay, enough for introductions. Let's get to the point, right? Why you're here. Okay, the first question, we will start with Diana Perez to answer this, and then we will go to Mr. Palera, Dr. Karamitsos, and Mr. Baskett. The first question to be entertained by Diana, and again, you'll have 3 minutes to respond. Please introduce yourself to the audience and describe what experiences and training you have that will aid you in being an effective board member. Ms. Perez? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for hosting us tonight. Again, my name is Diana Perez. I'm from Salinas. I attended community college in my hometown, attended Hartnell College, and transferred to UC Santa Barbara. I earned a bachelor's degree in political science, and then after that I transferred over to Fresno State and earned a master's degree in education counseling. And after I finished that degree, my first professional job was at Santa Barbara City College. I was an ESL counselor. I worked there for a couple of years before I was hired by UC Santa Barbara as a UC admissions counselor. So I did that for a number of years before I was hired by Allen Hancock College as a transfer counselor. I was a transfer counselor at Allen Hancock College for a couple of years before I was promoted to oversee a state grant by the California Student Aid Commission. And since then, I've been a director and worked in administration at Allen Hancock College for the past 17 years. So in essence, I have about over 2 decades of experience in education, in assisting students in post-secondary options at both the community college, the Cal State, and the UC. So in addition to that portion of my experience, I also was appointed as a commissioner to California State Parks in 2008 for a 4-year term. And currently I'm also on the board for the Center of Employment Training, which is the program that's on Morrison Road here in town. So I believe that I have extensive service and experience in assisting students and parents, and I enjoy what I do and feel that I'm very qualified to serve the high school board, not only with my experience but also as an employee that works at Allen Hancock College and in post-secondary education. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and again, thank you for being here, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. It's important to get the information out, even though we don't have a lot of people here. We're hoping the streaming people pay attention and they watch and see what's going on. It's important to be involved in our communities. Some of you might notice I have a little bit of an accent. I'm not from California originally. I grew up in New York after serving in the Marine Corps. I met my wife, who was a native Californian, and now I probably consider myself a Californian. I've lived in the Santa Maria area for close to 40 years now. I raised my 3 daughters here. They all attended local public high school, Rigetti. 2 of them are still here, and I have my grandchildren coming up through the public school system, and they'll be attending the high schools in there. So I have a reason for being on the board, and I would like to see my kids see the fruits of what's occurring in the school district. After I moved to Santa Maria shortly after that, my path was law enforcement, and I wound up serving on the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department for just over 30 years. And as my last assignment was commander of the North County Division stationed here at the Santa Maria off of Foster Road. So that I have some different experiences sitting on the board, which hopefully I've contributed to some different views. Since my path was not an education path, it was more of a law enforcement path. I also am the commissioner of the Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Commission, which reports to the Superior Court of Santa Maria. And we look at ways to keep kids involved and out of trouble. And I think that goes hand in hand with sitting on the school board. Because I've seen from law enforcement, when kids fail, it's because they didn't engage in their school systems. When they're not engaged in school, they leave the school, they drop out, they turn to the streets. It causes problems in our community, problems for them. Ultimately, most of them fail, and they unfortunately wind up in the criminal justice system. And that's what we don't want to see. If we have a healthy and prosperous school environment, it's the best way to make our kids, all of our kids, succeed. And I think that's incumbent on everybody who lives here in the community. We all want to see the kids succeed, because we live here and we want a healthy and strong community. So I think I bring a different perspective to the board, and I look forward to continuing that. Thank you.
Is it on now? Okay, okay. My name is Carol Karamitsos. I'm currently finishing my 3rd term on the board. I too want to thank the League for creating this forum for us. During my tenure on the board, we've seen a lot of changes from the deep recession that we had probably about 10 years ago, all the way till the present day, when we've seen our change in our funding model, where we have more local control and we have additional resources for our most neediest students, our free and reduced lunch English language learners, and our foster youth. So I hold in these past years a memorialization, a history of the changes in the district, which I think are beneficial when we sit on a board, because it's important to understand that we're not individuals, we're a group. And that group dynamic really, we rely on each other for our expertise. In the current board, my 2 fellow board members here, we really are able to tap into the extensive background. You can see that they've already introduced for themselves. As for myself, I'm a native Santa Marian. I was born here, graduated from Rigetti High School. I'm an OBGYN and came back to practice with my dad 24 years ago, just for temporary, but here I am. And I have a strong commitment to public education, namely because my parents were so committed. My father often said that the only reason he was ever able to become a physician was because he had access to free education. Otherwise, his family was poor, and he would not have been able to become educated. So he really instilled that in us. As a physician, and actually even preceding from high school years, I was always involved in leadership positions. During my tenure at as a medical staff member at the hospital, I've served on their community board, the Marion Foundation board. I've been chief of staff over there. I am the current chief of the perinatal department, perinatal medicine department. So I'm well versed in working together collaboratively. I believe that we really need to focus on meeting the needs of our students and our families and our community. And as Dom was saying, when our community is healthy from an education perspective, it really improves the overall quality and health of the entire community. So that's why I wanted to continue running for the board.
Am I supposed to speak now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Dave Baskett.
Oh, press the button for the microphone to be on?
Oh, I had to be light on. I'm on? Okay. I'm Dave Baskett. Thank you, first of all, League of Women's Voters. As you correctly stated, you're small but mighty. And I appreciate this opportunity to express some views. My grandparents were very influential in my life. They were Okies. They came here from Oklahoma during the Grapes of Wrath time. My parents were both born in Oklahoma, but moved here with their parents at the time. I was born in Glendale, California, and attended some public schools up until 3rd grade, at which time I was taken to a very interesting place, the mountains of the Philippines, where people, and my breaking up quite a bit here on the mic, the people of the Philippines in the mountain areas who wore G-strings, carried spears, and did not have a written language. My father and 2 other families were committed to teaching the people in that area, a tribal area, how to read and write in their own language, and to break down the language into phonetics, and to teach them to read and write, make the primers, write the primers. And then also going in with them was a medical doctor from Fresno who opened up the personal clinic up in the mountains, now a hospital. I left there to go to Texas and go to flight school and mechanical school, aircraft mechanic school. From there I went up in the Amazon jungles of Peru, flying until the Army found me, and then I was called in the Army. The next 20 years were in the Army. Some of it places I prefer not to go, but in the Army, 7 more years of schooling and education. The last 7 years were in the military-industrial complex. I was a flight instructor, lots of other types of teaching, and I really appreciate the military background. I'm here in Santa Maria, moved here after the Army in 1984. My kids graduated from schools, Spaghetti. They've all become tax-paying good citizens. Nobody's in jail, as they remind me once in a while. And I'm just happy to be here and will answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, each of you will have 4 minutes to respond, and we will begin with you, Mr. Palera, then Dr. Karamitsos, and then concluding with Ms. Perez. The question is, what are your goals for the school district, and how do you plan to work with various stakeholder groups, including parents, students, teachers, staff, administrators, and the community? Again, 4 minutes to respond. Mr. Palera.
Thank you. I think what we need to do now is continue on the path that we have going. I've been very honored to be on the board and see some exciting things happening. Our goal is to make every student college or career ready. So that's the ultimate goal, is to have a kid who leaves our school with the abilities and the skills to either go on to college or in a career they choose. So that's a primary goal, I think, that we're all committed to the students and the youth. We have a lot of exciting programs going on. We've been very fortunate. The voters of the San Maria Valley have again stepped up to the plate and passed a bond. You can see what's going on at our schools. At Rigetti right now, we're completing a 38 classroom, $22 million project that we hope to have completed and the kids starting to move in by the end of the year. We then are going to modernize the campus and hopefully get rid of those portables that were added when my kids started going to school, which presented the parking problem to the community. So we're improving there. We have a career technical education center that's just breaking ground. We're out there pouring the foundations right now, and that'll be coming up. So we're opening career pathways for our students. We're looking out in the community right now. We have the superintendent has committees out there working with the different businesses, deciding what businesses in this area are the best to train our students, to keep our students here if they so choose. The worst thing parents tell us is that once their kids graduate, to get a good job or to get a career, they move away. Well, if we look at what careers are in the area and we give those kids the direction and the skills they need, they'll stay here and become good taxpayers and family members and community members here. So we want to continue that. And then the last thing I'm hoping to continue to see is San Maria High School, one of the oldest high schools in the area. And that is going to be a complete remodelization there. It's going to be over $70 million put into that school, and it's about time. If those have been there, it really needs to. When you go to the campus, you can't even find where the front of the campus is. It's always a disappointment when I go there. It's the nature of the building. It started out, like I said, over 100 years ago, and now it's being used as an education center, as a high school. So it'll be a tremendous thing. So I want to see those things going. And those can't be done without reaching out to the community. And I've been fortunate when I came on to the board. The governor has the funding. The way the funding comes in, it's given the districts a lot more control. So the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan, allows the districts to go out and they have to seek out parents, students, teachers, administration. You have to bring all these groups together. They have to, it's their plan, not ours, and the students. So they formed a plan up. So it's exciting to see that, to see the results of that come back. And those are from the people that we're serving. The high school district serves the population. Our number one client is the students. After that, we have the parents and the community. So they're all involved. So I've been out there to these LCAP meetings. I intend to stay out there and involved in those and see the direction. And I hope to continue the direction the school's going now. Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to just echo up and piggyback on what Mr. Palera was saying, and just for background purposes, introduce the history. We had a strategic planning initiative that we brought all of the stakeholders that engage with schools, both on our sites, in our administration, then community members, and and it involves students as well. And the strategic plan was then the foundation for our LCAP. And we first implemented the LCAP planning in 2015. And then every year since then, we've been able to reassess and reevaluate and add or subtract as needed in order to reach those goals. So I'll just go quickly through the LCAP. We have 8 goals. And the reason I'm doing this is because, as Mr. Palera was saying, my goal is the community's goal. We're elected by the community to represent the community, and what we want to do is make sure that we support policies and our financial outlay to support these goals. So we have a challenge. Number one is challenge and support all students to demonstrate proficiency in Common Core. Number two, create a culture of respect, caring that supports positive relationships. I missed number three, sorry. Number four is strengthen district-wide support services, processes, and practices that support student learning. Number five, expand the ways in which technology may be used to support student engagement and learning. Number six, maintain a safe, secure, and healthy environment. Number seven, strengthen programs and services to English language learners. And number eight, develop a support system for our foster youth. So, you know, piggybacking on those, if in terms of specifics, what I've really tried to do is lend support to the staff that needs to have that interface with our students. It's really our teachers and our support staff at the sites that carry out the work. And so these are the people that we primarily need to support. It's a hard job to teach kids. You know, everybody's a unique. Margaret Mead said everyone's unique, but we're not really all unique, right? You're just like everybody else. That's what she said. And so, you know, what we want to do is support the teachers there. So I'd like to see actually that we bring in more tutors for students. I think that will help the teachers, maybe teachers that have larger class sizes in our core groups. I think more tutors there. Create an expectation for students to participate outside the classroom as well. That goes with our engagement piece, and provide support for our staff so that they also will participate. Maximize the access to our CTE, and I'm just going to finish up by saying I'd like to see that we revolutionize our approach to curriculum. We've got ethnic and gender studies coursework that's being. Sorry. Thank you.
My turn again? I'll keep mine short. She can have an extra minute if she needs it. I'll keep mine very simple. Our nation right now is in a bit of a crisis on feeding the military with thoughtful, intelligent, capable people to maintain our military forces around the world. And unfortunately, only a small proportion right now of the high school graduates can qualify for the military. I would like to see into this area a junior ROTC program, along with the physical ed that goes with that, so that we have a much higher percentage of the population who has a choice. If they choose not to go, at least they'll be qualified to go in the military. And that'd be as far as how you get that done, you visit people, talk to people, be accessible. So that's, you're welcome to have the minute back.
No.
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't be fair. So.
No, it's all right then. You were doing well. That's.
Okay. I actually will be very specific on the areas that I think we should address and what I'd like to see we work on. I'm going to agree with Dr. Karamitsos. I do believe that we need additional tutors for our students that may need help with their homework. I constantly hear from parents, and the reason that there's a greater need is because we now have Common Core, and if you're familiar with Common Core, it's a new way of doing math, for example. And I can tell you, I cannot help my own kid. I can't help my own daughter. So there are some challenges, and parents sometimes can't help. They may not be able to help their own kids. So I do believe we need to increase access for students to be able to get help with the homework. At Allen Hancock College, we have a tutorial center, where students can come in and get help in any subject at any time. And I'd like to see we duplicate that at our high schools. We should have a tutorial center where students could get help after school. And I'd like to have that center also in Guadalupe to assure the kids that live in Guadalupe have the same access as our students in Santa Maria. So that's one. The other area that I'd like to see that we expand is AVID. AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. And what it is, it's a program that helps students prep for what we call the A through G, which is basically university requirements. And it starts in 9th grade, and the students are in a cohort and they follow the same teachers, and in essence, it prepares them for university entrance. And what's great about this program is that 98% of the students that are in AVID are eligible to go to the university. And right now we have 634 students who are in AVID district-wide. I'd like to see this program double. So that's number 2. The third area that I'd like to see us work on is I want to increase field trips for all of our students. We do offer college trips, but I'd like to see more opportunities for more of our students. This year we started offering field trips for our freshmen to go over to Cal Poly, which is great, but I'd like to take our students to other places in California and open it up to more of our students. We should invest at the 9th grade level so that they understand what it takes to get there if that's what they want to do. So we need to start earlier. If we're starting in junior, senior, it's too late. So that's number 3. The fourth goal that I have is I would like to take a look at increasing classroom aids for teachers. I think that we are asking our teachers to do a lot. We're asking our teachers to take on big challenges, and our teachers could use a little help. Sometimes they may have students who have limited English and then students that are proficient, and it's a challenge to try to teach those students with different abilities. So I'd like to see if teachers need an assistant or additional materials or anything that they might need. I'd like to see that we ask our teachers what do they need, and that we ought to provide whatever resources they need and assist them in the classroom.
Thank you very much, all of you. Okay, at this point we will begin our intermission for about 10 minutes. We will be passing out cards upon which you can write your questions for the candidates. Please entertain writing a question so that we have a good question and answer period. Thank you. So get up, stretch, walk around, whatever. Thanks. Well, we had a nice dilemma in going through the questions that were submitted. We had too many questions for the amount of time that we have left. So if by some chance your question has not been addressed, feel free to come up afterwards and talk with the candidates to get their take on your question. And thank you for understanding. Okay, the first question, Dr. Karamitsos, we will begin with you. Mr. Baskett, we will conclude with Mr. Palera. The next question, we will begin with Mr. Baskett, conclude with Dr. Karamitsos. That way, not everybody is ever first, nor is anybody ever last. We want to be fair. Okay, the first question, Dr. Karamitsos. Would you support ethnic and gender studies as a graduation requirement?
That's a very, I think, a very complex question that doesn't have a uniform answer to it. And I'm not trying to duck anything, but what I was starting to say is I would like to see us actually be even more revolutionary in our thought of transforming our curriculum. I totally support ethnic and gender studies, and I'd like to see it more infused actually in curriculum at large, because what tends to happen is that you know, the coursework is, it's awesome coursework, but it tends to be something that students have to select. I understand the intent of making it a graduation requirement so that, you know, that students are sort of mandated to engage in that kind of learning. The difficulty I have in you know, throwing 100% support behind that is that that might come at the cost of students not being able to also take other courses. And so what I'd like to see is that we really have a robust ethnic and gender studies and get that curriculum to grow and have the transformation occur as time rolls on into our core curriculum. You know, I don't think that it should be that somebody has to take a class on women's studies to learn about women physicians, just from my point of view. You know, that should be part of just everybody's learning experience. And I don't do the master board and you know, getting students into classes, I understand is a very complex issue. So I'm going to support ethnic and gender studies. I'm just not convinced that making it a mandatory requirement for I just want to make sure we do the right thing for students, and so I just want to say we should be very thoughtful before we necessarily create another mandatory class for students.
I will respectfully disagree on that. I think genders and ethnic studies generally should be taught at home, that the valuable school time should be spent on science, math, technology, and other necessary items. And to make it a requirement, I do not think adds to the melting pot, the unification of the United States. I think it helps divide more rather than join more, and that's what I do.
Actually, I am supportive of an ethics studies graduation requirement, but I would say not now, not today. I think I believe that there is a bill that I wanted to double check. I believe it's already been passed, or it's coming, that will make ethnic studies a graduation requirement, and if I recall correctly, it will happen in 2024. So, no, he didn't sign it. Okay, but I still do think that ethnic studies is beneficial for our students. I would support an ethnic studies requirement down the road, and when I say down the road, in 5-6 years, I think we should have an ethnic studies requirement. But like Dr. Karamitsos said, we have to plan for it. We have to figure out how it would work into the curriculum. It's not something that can just be done from one day to the next. So, yes, I do support it, done in a reasonable time frame, and done planned with the support of the teachers and the community. There's a process that needs to be done, but yes, I would support it in the near future.
Again, as everybody said, it's a difficult question to answer. I fully support ethnic and gender studies. I think if you can engage your kids and empower the kids, they do better. So I have no problem with the courses being introduced at the schools. But I'm not the expert in this field, and I've talked to Dr. Richardson, the superintendent, and I've talked to the site principals at our high schools, and it's not as easy as it seems. To take on another graduation requirement, what would that mean? We have almost 8,000 students. That's 8,000 individuals. We have those that want to go on to college. We have those that want to go on to a career. We want to see that every kid graduates. So taking on another graduation requirement, I'm not sure if that would negate something somewhere else where we have somebody that doesn't pass get a high school diploma. So I'm not sure how to get that into the field. I leave that up to Dr. Richardson and his staff to work that out. I think the board was unified. We had all voted that we supported. We want to see the curriculum rolled out at our schools. Probably hasn't come out as quick as a lot of people would like. But then again, there's a process to roll these things out properly. So I have faith in what's happening in the district, and I'll let the superintendent roll it out that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Baskett, we will begin with you to answer the following question first. What do you feel is the importance of CTE to our local community and employer base? Please explain.
I want to verify that you said TTE or CTE?
CTE.
TTE. I have a company called TTE.
No, C. C is in Colleen. CTE.
Colleen, ETE.
CTE.
Career Technical Education.
Okay, Career Technical Education. Okay, I've heard another term for that, but I absolutely believe strongly in Career Technical Education. I think the practical example of that, if you go on to be an educator, you need to go through the system, get various degrees, but if you want to support a family, you may be better off going out and fixing cars or building airplanes, welding things, or working in the oil fields. And I believe that a strong technical education will lead to more jobs, more satisfactory jobs, and a stronger community. So I have very high opinion and support for, as you call it, CTE, Career and Technical, and I admire the school districts who are putting together the welding shops and the car shops and the other things that are going on right now, that new building that's going on at the Rigetti. So strong supporter of that.
Having 20 years of advising students, I've told many students that some of them are better off with a 2-year welding degree than a 4-year bachelor's degree in sociology. There are valuable 1 or 2 year career technical degrees that have great value because of the hands-on skills. So career technical professions are greatly needed. In fact, there's a great need for them, and that's partially why we're going to have a center here, because there is a need, there is a demand, and we have students in our district who have great interest. Not every student wants to go on to a 4-year university. That's reality. I have family members who don't want to go on to 4-year university. That's okay. That's okay, because we all have different talents, and some people have talents and they want to use their hands, and that's perfectly fine. So I think that we're going to offer opportunities for students that are interested. Our new CTE center is, and I'm just going to go off the top of my head, a construction, where we're going to have ag, culinary arts, diesel mechanics. So these are all skills that provide high-paying jobs, and that's what we're after. If we're going to provide skills to students in career technical, we want to offer them opportunities that will give them high-paying employment.
Thank you. I hate to just repeat everything that was said. I agree with what's said. We have this career technical education center that's being built. And when you have 8,000 students, what our job is to make sure that each student has a knowledge, skills, and ability to succeed when they leave high school. If that decision is to go on to a 2-year or 4-year college or university, we got other students, they're 18, they don't know what they want to do yet. Maybe education will be later on, but they need to get out when they leave school and be able to go into the workforce. And we know that the parents want them to have good paying jobs. So by having a career technical education center that teaches the industries that are in demand in this area, we're doing two things. We're giving that student the opportunity to earn an income and be independent, and also we're helping the community by providing a workforce that can take those jobs. So a strong proponent of CTE. I think over the years we kind of got away from that. It used to be in some areas ROP program, regional occupational programs, things like that. And for some reason we drifted away, and I think it's a course direction and it's in the right area right now, and the state recognizes that and has put funding toward it. So thank you.
We've been really fortunate to have Dr. Del Rio and her staff really creating a very robust pathway. They keep adding them. I think they're up to 14. And it is all foundation. The foundation of all of the pathways have to do with local industry. But it's important for people to understand that the CTE is not about students that only want to, graduate from high school and go into a career opportunity. The pathway provides students to take the capstone course and receive a certification or a prerequisite to allow them to enter into another sort of technical field. But there are students that are going to access that who are college, are planning to go to college, maybe in an engineering department, an engineering degree or such, and this gives them some background coursework. So it's not exclusive of kids that are, not planning on college. I think the single most important thing is, as Dom was saying, is it's about engagement. And teenagers are a very diverse group. They come into our schools as 14-year-olds. And there's a big transformation, a great maturation of that student when they become an 18 or a 19-year-old. And we tend to think chronologically, but we have to understand that the maturity of a student, is highly variable as far as that individual themselves. So, there might be kids that go through the CTE and then, chronologically aren't ready, but maturity-wise aren't ready. And then later on they say, I'm ready to go. And we want to ensure that during their high school years that they receive the coursework that they needed to be able to go to college, even at a later date, so nobody gets hung up.
Thank you. Ms. Perez, we will begin with you to be the first to respond to this question. Why do so many teachers feel disrespected by the administration and board? And what are you doing to make that situation better?
I personally have not, teachers have, I wish they would, but have not come to me to say they've been disrespected.
She just said that.
So what I want to say is that if there is a disconnect, what I would like to do moving forward is increase the opportunities to meet with the teachers. I think that there are opportunities to have conversations, and I'd like to do that. I would like to hear from the teachers myself, and I've been thinking about this for a while. And one of the commitments that I want to make, and I'd be more than happy to do it today in this public forum, is that I want to donate my 2 weeks vacation next year to spend more time meeting with the teachers and meeting with the staff to get a better understanding of where the gaps are. Where is it that this sentiment is coming from, because quite honestly, I'm not sure I fully understand it. And so to understand it, I would need to invest more time. And I do want to hear from the teachers. And so I believe that to get there, I'd be more than happy to listen, and I'm going to make myself available to hear what they have to say.
You know, I'm sorry to hear that, because we couldn't have the schools without the teachers. They are very valuable to the whole process and the whole organization. They're the backbone of it. And I recognize that. And I certainly do not disrespect the teachers. They have a very difficult job. I understand it. I think the entire board understands that. So sometimes there's this disconnect where there's a perceived action, and somebody might think it is disrespectful, but I'm sorry they feel that way, because that is not the way I personally feel. I have nothing but respect for the teachers. We try to do, as a board, give the teachers the support they need and the things out there. You know, you look at what's going on. We're trying to make our campuses better for the teachers. We're trying to increase programs and things like that. But sometimes it's not relayed that way. The only thing we can do is increase communication. I'm always open. If somebody calls and says they want to meet, a cup of coffee or something, discuss why they might feel that way, I'm open. I meet all the time with different people. But I can tell you from my personal view and from the people I know on the board, there is not one person that thinks, doesn't have a high regard for the teachers and is trying to disrespect them in any way. Sometimes decisions aren't made, or decisions are made that you might not agree with, but we have to look what's best for the district and what's best for the students.
I would just echo those sentiments. I would like to more clearly understand what is meant by the term disrespect, and again, we can't understand that until we all are on the same page about defining terms, because that's a fairly broad category. So it would be really important, I think, for teachers to be able to share their views. And again, I haven't had anybody personally ask me about that. In years past, certainly we have. It always seems to be around the time that we're undergoing negotiations, and I think that it's a painful process to go through negotiations, because there are times of that decisions are made that are dissatisfying to the staff, and that's not just teachers. That's our our classified staff as well. So I think it's just a matter of opening up the lines of communication. And I echo them. It's disturbing to me if people think that in any way I've been disrespectful, because that would not be my intent. As a physician, my role is to be respectful and to honor and validate people, and we may not always agree, but we can agree to disagree in a very respectful way.
My daughter was a teacher for 10 years in Victorville and Trimble School, and she told me some of the stories and things that went on. I have perhaps a simplistic view of this. I believe that teachers should have control of the classroom, authority in the classroom, and be 100% supported by the principal and the school. If once that is established and you can remove some of the troublemakers from the classroom because the teacher says so, that would be my instinct. Will it work in today's society? I grew up in a place in a time when teachers were up there at the top of society. I know teachers in Finland right now, Southeast Asia, are also high in the respectful category as part of the society. I would like to see that restored here in this country, in this state, and in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, Mr. Palera, we will ask you to address it first. In light of recent school violence, how do you feel about staff being allowed to be armed? What is your solution to campus safety?
Very good question, and with my background, most people are a little surprised. I'm against arming teachers. I can tell you from a 30-year career, that was the tool of my trade, and I had to train with it all the time. And the people that I worked with trained with it all the time, and yet we still had accidental discharges and officers shot during training missions and things like that. And these are the people that do it for a living. So now we would take that and arm teachers and put more guns in the school. And at what level are they going to be trained? Who's going to establish that minimum training level? I'm sure there'll be some teachers that could handle it very well. But what about the other teacher that's just interested in it and meets the minimums? And then we have more guns out there. It seems when people aren't familiar with guns, you have issues with them. So I'm against putting guns on the campus, more guns on the campus. I am for school security. We increased that when I got on the board. We made sure that Rigetti had a full-time school resource deputy. It's good they're there to watch over the kids, not watch the kids, but watch over the kids. The campuses are closed. We've limited the amount of entry and exits into it. We're putting cameras out on the campus so our security can see what's going on. We've added additional security to the campuses. We have controlled access for vehicles coming in now where the gates are closing. So we made steps. We don't want to turn them into prisons, but we want them secured.
Yeah, it's really sad times actually when, you know, we have to have these kinds of conversations. Just to add to what Mr. Palera was saying, we also have training for active shooter at the schools. I'm against arming teachers. I'm against putting more guns on the campus. You know, it's a huge responsibility and it's a huge liability. If somebody has an infection, we don't throw more contagium into the equation. So we want to try to use tools to de-escalate and leave the arming in the hands of the professionals. I just also want to add with Dominick, we use a county resource officer on Rigetti's campus because they're out of city limits, but we do have two resource officers who are from the Santa Maria Police Department on Pioneer and Santa Maria High's campuses. So, and we have security as well. So it is a sad thing that we have to talk about this, but it's necessary because as we see, no community is immune from this kind of event. And so, you know, the other thing is you know, making sure that we treat every potential threat with some seriousness. And we do get these kinds of alerts from the board that, you know, there have been some threats made or something, and people are on top of it. I have to give people a lot of reassurance in our community. This is something that is taken very seriously and working very well with the police department and the sheriff's department.
Well, I'll have the minority view. Yesterday in Crimea, an 18-year-old student shot and killed 19 other students in high school in Russia. And initiated an explosive device that injured about 50 more. In China, a couple of years ago, a person armed with a knife killed about 40 students. The biggest murder in schools was committed in the United States in 1927, when a school employee, who was a disgruntled farmer, wired a room, he was working as an electrician, with dynamite. My view is this: should every teacher have a gun? I don't think they do want. I don't think they want one. Would it be good? Probably not. But I think that, based on history, no matter how good the security systems are, no matter how good the intents are, there are going to be human failures. And if a teacher believes that he or she may be in danger and wants to be armed, I think they should have
against arming teachers. And I'm just going to dovetail from my colleagues here on the board and actually provide you currently what our school district has already implemented. We do provide ALICE active shooter training for all of our personnel. We do have resource officers on all of our campuses. We have 21 campus supervisors. We have security fences with electronic control systems. We have electronic gates, classroom doors that lock from the interior, 275 high-resolution video cameras, security alarms, staff uniforms, and actually I'm going to stop there because the list goes on, GPS, ID readers, and so forth. And so I think that our district is doing absolutely everything that a district should and could do. I don't think you could ever 100% prove anything. There's no way you could do it. So for the most part, if you think of every day, classroom shootings are not happening every day. They do happen, but it's not happening every day. For the most part, schools are safe. So no, I don't think it's necessary to go to that extreme.
Thank you. Dr. Karamitsos, we'll begin with you to answer first. How do you envision future articulation with your feeder elementary districts and with Hancock College to deliver continuity of goals and an equitable education outcome?
Our articulation efforts are already underway, and what some districts benefit from when they're K-12 is that unification of goal setting and services, and we do have some disjointed student progress as a result of having the elementary and the high school district. I think that our feeder districts, Orchid Unified School District, Santa Maria Bonita, Guadalupe School District, and Blockman, we do have some teachers and other staff that interact with those individual sites. I know our superintendents are working closely together, and then as well as with Dr. Waters at Hancock College. And in terms of that part of it, that piece of it, our CTE has been really well, I think, well articulated with the Hancock College, in addition to having the college classes on our campuses. So working with Hancock College to have their our students being able to have college classes on the high school campus. So I think that work is happening, and I just look forward to future endeavors so we can streamline that that student's experience.
Whether it's looking down for the students coming up or students going up to Hancock or to other places, the integration of different cultures and different standards sometimes can be difficult. I think it gets mitigated by spending time with the staff and with the students, with the teachers at each level, whether it's the grade school level or whether it's on Hancock. And if you're in charge of a high school, you should have some responsibility of quarterly or some scheduled meetings with the other educational schools in the area. Communication, discussions, coffee time, meetings, up and down. Thank you.
I'm going to start with Allen Hancock College because I'm quite knowledgeable with the articulation agreements there. Dr. Walters and Dr. Richardson they both have done an extraordinary job at providing access to college classes at the high school level. A while back, students had to travel to Hancock to take a college course, and now they're offered on the high school. And let me just give you a couple of examples of what's offered on our high school campuses now through Hancock. For example, they can take world civilizations, they can take psychology, history, geography, film, French. There's a variety of courses that now students can take right on the high school campus that will give them college credit. So that's wonderful. They've done a great job. The other component is our K through 8 school districts. And I think that on that side of it, I do agree with Mr. Baskett that I think that I would like to see that we spend more time having discussions on how we might be able to work together to assure that students come prepared, better prepared to take the high school curriculum. I know it's a challenge on that end, and I think that having those conversations might be able to help us come up with maybe some new ideas that might help students come better prepared, and I'd like to have those conversations.
I think, as Ms. Perez said, we're doing an excellent job as the kids transfer up to Allen Hancock. It's been a fantastic relationship between the two, and I have to give Ms. Perez a lot of credit for that. Her knowledge that she brings to the board and the expertise she's able to share has been real helpful on that end. The state report card came out, and I'll be honest with you, we got to do better. You look at our feeder schools, they got to do better. We have the kids for 4 years. The feeder schools have them for 8. We have to get better communication. I know Dr. Richardson has reached out, and he's now communicating. He has always, but he's communicating and have in-depth conversations with the superintendents from our feeder schools to see what we can do to prepare the kids. The hardest courses are your math and science courses. If you hit 9th grade and you're not prepared to take those algebra classes, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. So what can we do? I know recently Ms. Perez and myself visited all the schools, and each principal is working on solving that problem. They have their math and science teachers. They're trying to reach out to the feeder schools to make sure they're on the same path. What they're teaching in our feeder schools are going to translate over to the high school. And then if they're coming in and they're not prepared, what can we do to get them prepared, either in a summer school or tutoring program, to get them up to speed so they can graduate and pass those courses.
Thank you. Mr. Baskett, we will ask you to answer this first. As a board member, is your primary responsibility to provide oversight to district administrative decision-making or to facilitate the superintendent's vision? Please explain.
I suspect that the superintendent's vision will be very similar to mine, and I should facilitate that. And where it's not, then I would have an alternative opinion. And I would explain that opinion to see if some of the ladies and gentlemen here would agree with that. If they disagree, then I would accept the decision of the board and continue to support the board's decision. Okay. Yes? Okay.
It's a collaboration. It's never one person or one small group. It's the board, it's the superintendent, it's the teachers, it's all the staff, it's the community, the students. It's actually quite complex, and so you take all the components and you take what the data that you have and you make decisions. So ultimately, when we're making decisions on the board, it's going to come down to what's best for the students. And with that frame of mind, you take a look at what decisions need to be made. I don't know how to say it. It's just complex, and there's so many decisions: facilities, budget, staffing, all these things that happen on a monthly basis on the agenda. If you look at the agenda, you can see all the decisions that go into running a school district, and I believe it's a collaborative effort between all the parties. I don't see it as one person or one group.
Well, the board, as a governance board, is a team, and we set pretty much the vision that we want to see the district, what occurs in the district. And the board works through the superintendent. Now, the superintendent gives us feedback and ideas, but the vision is from the board with the help of the superintendent. Then it's the superintendent's job to go out and see those things are done. We hire the superintendent. We expect the superintendent, we hold him accountable for making sure everything is done within the district. So that's where the board's authority is. The board doesn't get down and make minute decisions. That's not our job as a governing board. Our job is to work through the superintendent. If we see an issue, we see a problem, we talk to the superintendent. It's upon the superintendent to correct that and make sure that what's taking place is what the board wants to see. So that's the way it's supposed to work, and that's what we ask the superintendent to do. If the superintendent sees an issue, he takes it to the board, and sometimes he'll look for guidance on the board where he should go on that, and we'll give him guidance and direction. And then the superintendent takes that out and ensures that that is taking place. This superintendent, Dr. Richardson, in my opinion, has been fantastic. He keeps myself and the rest of the board informed on what's going on. Sometimes you might not think so, but he's in constant communication, so we know what's going on. If there is an issue or a problem, we know about it ahead of time. Thank you.
I'd just like to, mirror what Ms. Perez and Mr. Palera said, because this is a collaborative endeavor. We are board members elected from the community to serve on a board, and we're not individuals, so it is always about collaboration. It's not about micromanaging. I think it in the districts where the board is being directive outside of the scope of their governance team, those districts have a lot of challenges because there's division that starts happening. So, we really want to make sure that people are able to have these conversations with each other, but it has to also be held in a public forum because we're public officials and we don't want to violate the Brown Act. So it would be really inappropriate for us to say that we were going to, make board decisions outside of the public's purview. So I think that the process is very well delineated, and I think that our board really takes that as our number one, responsibility is that we act responsibly as elected officials and work through our governance team, which is the board and our superintendent, who is part of our governance team. He's not a voting member, but he's part of our governance team. And again, we want to make sure that the vision that we have is visions that we've set out. It's not a principle that makes for the decisions that happen at the district. As I started to say before, we have a strategic plan, we have LCAP, and we are really working through those measures individually.
Thank you. Ms. Perez, we will ask that you be the first one to respond to this. 84% of the high school students here are Hispanic or Latino, while only 22% of district teachers are of a similar ethnicity. Do you believe the district should make an effort to recruit a diverse workforce that reflects its student population?
Absolutely. I think we should. I think the challenge is that all school districts face is that there's a shortage of teachers. Should we attempt to hire more diversity? Absolutely. I think when the opportunity is available, we should. Students tend to see teachers that look like them as role models, and it does help. It doesn't mean that the teachers that we have aren't great teachers. We have many great teachers, but I think that there is a cultural piece that provides a little bit of a connection there for some students. So yes, I would say that it would help I don't see any reason why it couldn't be 50% and 50-50. That would be a good goal to have.
Yeah, I have to agree. You know, when you look at the demographics in our school district has changed, and it's always good to have a diverse staff. But we want the most qualified. What I'm excited about seeing is when I walk around Santa Maria High School or Pioneer or something, and some teacher will say, oh, this student grew up here in Santa Maria and now came back and is teaching at that school. And that student is of Latino descent. I mean, how more empowering can that be? That's what we want to see. I think that empowers the kids more than anything else. When you can hire somebody from the community that has the background like them, that grew up here, went away to school, got their teaching credential, and came back, that is so empowering to a student. Anything we can do to encourage them to come back, but we want the best teachers we can get. So it's a hard thing. So do we take a teacher that has a lot of skills and has been out there that's coming into the district, or do we gamble on a new one? You know, that's why we have a probationary period. We bring the teachers in, and if they perform, they stay in the district. If they don't, then they'll leave and move on. But it's great if we can get more diverse in our teachers. Anything to empower the students and keep them engaged.
We obviously want to hire highly qualified teachers, and I do firmly believe that people should be given an opportunity to become part of our district, you know, no matter what their background is. But it would be certainly a wonderful experience for our students, as Ms. Perez was saying, if they can see culturally a connection to their teacher. And I would say that, you know, it's a fairly broad, if you just say Hispanic, that's a really broad category, because we have a lot of people who are, you know, from indigenous communities in Mexico and here in California. I mean, California, the first European language spoken in California was not English, it was Spanish. And we have a very rich Spanish culture here, whether people really are, you know, consciously aware of it or not. So we want to celebrate that richness, but we also want to make sure that the indigenous peoples, we have a lot of Mixteco speakers and Triqui, a few Triqui, and Zapoteco, and we've made a concerted effort to include our Mixteco parents in and bring them into the fold. So it would be beautiful if we could get some of our Mixteco students to become teachers, to come back to our community and really, you know, it's not about being white. The subcategory, everybody's a subcategory, and all the subcategories need to feel that their history and their background is valid and important. Everybody matters.
Having been part of various races and tribes and languages for much of my life, I think there's high value in identification between a student and teacher if they can see future becoming the teachers or the instructors or mayors or politicians level. I have no disagreement. I just think we have to be very careful, very, very careful, because I've seen this happen, where you lower standards for someone to take a job because of color or race or gender, and that has led to troubles. If the standards can be met, the more the teachers reflect the demographics of the students, I think it's better.
Thank you. Looking at the clock, I think this will be the last question from the audience that we will ask you to entertain. Mr. Palera, we will ask that you answer it first. How do you feel about increasing our graduation requirements to what they used to be? Should unit requirements be comparable with other local high schools?
That's a very intriguing question. As I've said several times, we have 8,000 students we have to look to, and we want to make sure that every student has the capability of getting that high school diploma. So I'm not sure what the other districts right now, what their requirements are compared to ours, so I'm not prepared to say to increase them or not. I know that our goal is to get every kid, every student prepared for either college or career. That's what our pathways, and that's where we're working. So at this point, I'm not willing to say yes, we should increase. I'd have to look more into that. There's always two sides of a coin. Sometimes it sounds good and you hear from one perspective, then you turn the coin over, hear the other side, and it's just as articulate as the first, and then you have to weigh the two. So I think that's a decision that I look for input from our superintendent and his staff to come back to the board and make a recommendation, and that's why we hire him. That's why he's there, to give us the input back.
I think that the graduation requirements allow for our students to complete their 4 years of high school and get their high school diploma. As I said earlier, there's a variable maturation throughout this chronology of being a 14 to an 18, 19-year-old. And if we look at, as Mr. Palera was saying, students that feel sort of disassociated with their communities, by and large, these are high school dropouts. These are kids that did not get a high school diploma. And I'm in favor of creating a high school experience for students where they feel engaged in the school, and maybe they're not coming for the math class, maybe they're coming because they want to play baseball, but allowing that student to get the basic high school curriculum, and in addition to any other sort of elective material that speaks to them, and give them a diploma, give them a chance, give them the basic basic expectation that any sort of job, military or college would require. So I don't think we need to raise the bar in order to really give our students raise the graduation requirements in order to give our students an enriching experience. And I think this has been discussed in years past, and this is what the values that the requirement that we settled on.
With the recent study of 17,000 plus high schools in the United States, the top 25 were listed. I read them today. Almost all of them were in other states. 2 were in the state of California. 1 was in San Diego, 1 was up in San Jose. I think we do our students a disservice if we don't demand the highest level of highest standards of high schools around and become the model, become the go-to place where students want to be proud of having graduated from, and where employees will come and say, I want a student from Assembly High or from Rigetti. And I want somebody that felt good during their time and managed to graduate because of political process and other things. I think we should have the toughest and the best standards in the country. That's my view.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I just want to make sure that
How do you feel about increasing our graduation requirements to what they used to be? Should unit requirements be comparable with other local high schools?
Yeah. I actually have taken a look at our nearby other districts, and they do have, I think, an additional 10 units for graduation requirements. I'm not sure if all of them do, but I think most of them might. So, and the competitive me wants to have a higher standard for our students. So my answer is yes, with conditions. Yes, I want to increase the units, but the conditions are, and I mentioned them earlier, with support for additional support for teachers, and I went through the items that I wanted to see we add. Tutoring for students, maybe, like I said, let's figure out what teachers need. So I don't think you just add an additional requirement without looking to see if there's going to be some needs there. So first we evaluate what is needed before we add an additional requirement. But yes, I would want us to be equivalent to our nearby school districts. I would support that, and I wanted to offer a quick suggestion. I also think that we need to offer more opportunities for students to have access during after-school hours, services, counseling services after school. Counseling services during the summertime. There's other things that I think that we can do to expand so that we support teachers and students. When we're going to ask them for more, we got to give them the support.
Thank you. Now we've come to the last part of this evening's program, and that is the time during which each of you can give a concluding statement, and we ask that you limit it to 2 minutes, and we will begin with you, Mr. Baskett, and conclude with you, Ms. Perez.
First, you have good people up here that have been running good schools. I bring, perhaps, as I said, a different viewpoint because of my military and other background that was a little bit different. And I have come to respect certain activities that result in people being proud of their location, proud of their school, proud of the country. And that's what I would like to leave with you. Plus, 26 days ago, I had my 7th grandson. So, and I hope he remains a good California citizen and a tax-paying citizen. Thank you very much.
I didn't prepare anything. I've been working since 7 o'clock yesterday morning, so I'm kind of tired. And I guess that's really maybe the theme, and it's about hard work. And you know, everyone here in the audience tonight, you know, you guys are part of this, you know, part of the solution. You're out here supporting the community, and it takes hard work. And I think a lot of times the students, you know, they're young, they're just kids. They don't actually realize how much adult work is going into being their supporters the whole way. There's not a single person sitting in this room tonight that doesn't root for every one of our 8,000 students on the campus and every one of our children in our communities and at large in the world. So as social animals, you know, we just want to say we agree on most everything. It's just the little things we don't agree on. And so no matter who gets elected to the board, you know, that's the will of the people. That's the democracy as it stands. And so I think that the community is not going to, you know, is not going to flounder, because everybody here is here to do the hard work. So any one of us can sit on this board for the Santa Maria Joint Union High School District and serve the needs of our community, because we all believe in public education.
Well, again, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I know you took your time out to come hear us speak and to make a decision on what's going on. I've been honored to be on the board this last 4 years and really be part of the governance team. It's been very rewarding and enlightening for me to be part of this team, because even though we've disagreed sometimes, we've been always respectful, and whatever decision was made, we've owned that as a board, and that's the way it should be done. And not every board is like that. You know, it's a complex, education has become very complex. I mean, we have 8,000 students, over $107 million budget. We have 3 high schools. We have more demands being put on from the state. The focus is on the kids, the students. So sometimes there's disagreement on one side of what they think is best. But if we make a mistake, we are trying our best, and we're listening to those out in the field, trying to make those informed decisions. If we see something isn't working, I have no problem saying it's not working. We need to alter the course of that. And that's what it's about. What is working for the kids? When things are brought to us, I think one of the first things on the board, the first thing to think about is, how is that going to benefit the students? Because that's the primary focus of these schools, students first. So we look at, is it a benefit to the students? If so, how can we implement that, and how can we make it better? I hope to get your support in this election. Thank you.
First of all, I want to say that I love my country, and I'm very grateful for a wonderful life that I've had. And so I feel indebted to give back. And this is how I feel that I can give back, by giving of my time and my expertise to public service. I have great love and have enjoyed working with students and parents. So so moving forward, I think that what I want to see is that I want to see that we become one of the best school districts, and I think that we have the team that can do that. My colleagues and I currently work very well together, and I think that when a board works well, you can get things done quickly. And so if you think about, those of you who know the history of Santa Maria, what I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years in terms of significant positive changes, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen more positive changes than the previous 20 in terms of things that we have done to improve the schools. And so it's very exciting to see that. And I think that the next term, the current board can do the next chapter of incredible changes for our students and for our community. And so I hope that the community is seeing that, all the positive changes, and will support us moving forward with getting things done. And we do have some things to work on, and we will address them. And I just hope that that you will re-elect quite honestly, I'm going to speak for the three of us that are incumbents, because we work well together, and that you will bring us back. I do have a daughter who's going to enter Rigetti, and I hope to be a board member and a parent for the school district next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's thank all of our candidates for being here tonight. Thank you again to each of you for coming tonight, abiding by the agreement to have the forum conducted. Also, thank you to all of you in the audience for coming tonight. We really appreciate that support. We hope that you have learned a lot. I know I have. We ask that you go out and I'm brain dead. Spread the word, and remember to vote on November the 6th. Prior to that, there is another candidates forum. We talked about feeder districts. This candidates forum is next Friday, a week from Friday, and it is going to feature the candidates for the Santa Maria Bonita School District. And that's going to be at the same time, 6:30 at the Boys and Girls Club on South Railroad. So we hope that you're able to go to that. Also, you can go to the League website, I believe, and also the Santa Maria Times, and see the video of these forums if you've missed some in the past. We did have one for the Orchid School District, another feeder district. Thank you also to all of the League members that did a lot of work behind the scenes to effect all of these forums tonight. So Lisa, do you want to give a farewell?
Thank you very much. The League supports education from kindergarten on past to higher education. You folks really dealt with some of the very important things that our community feels we needed to address. Thank you for coming tonight. Again, we have our last forum for this election year. If you're interested in joining the League and helping us get our educated voters, we have some forums available, and please don't hesitate to ask any of us questions. We want to thank Kuka for the interpreting, and thank the Santa Maria Times for their coverage. They've always done a great job for us. Thank you, and have a great evening.